Sure. Hi, everyone. All right. So this is the first ever inaugural of the damage control training class session chat. I don't know what we're really going to call it, but it's all good. I'm Melinda Grimaldi. I'm a real estate attorney. I write title. I do all that stuff. Anthony, why don't you introduce yourself?
Guys, I've been doing this about 16 years, branch manager here at Paramount Residential Mortgage Group with the TAG team. And damage control came to me about a year ago, and we just implemented it, I would say, what, 6 months ago, Melinda?
We started to design what it was going to look like 6 months ago, but life gets in the way of our idea sometimes, and we try to get it cracking for a little while, but we finally have launched this idea. So I'm excited.
So we always have events, and this came into reality. Let me just enter these people in. Came into reality because every single time we have an event, Melinda and I, we always get questions, a lot of Q&A, and it dawned on us, look, maybe we should just obviously have a live stream such as this to answer all of the craziness that goes on in our business. And it's not out of the ordinary. I mean, we deal with this situations every single day, and that's what we're going to go into. Damage control is about the control in our business and how we can navigate through the choppy waters and release the stress of the turmoil and the chaos of this business that it comes to every single day. So let's start it, man. Let's start it. What's our agenda here? We've got
So we got four topics we're going to discuss today, but you guys all have the opportunity to ask us questions, whether if you're on Facebook Live or on the Zoom meeting. So if you have follow-up questions, just let us know, or you want to hear, there's something specific that you want to hear us chat about today. So we have, we came up with four topics for today, and Anthony's going to start. And I love this one. I learned a lot from it when I heard him say this first: time kills deals, right? So Anthony, why don't you talk about that?
Okay, so time kills deals, folks. Let me go into a couple things and scenarios. Every sales cycle that you have needs to be shortened. Those of you that have mentors such as myself, they all speak about, sales cycles. Shorten your sales cycle. Make sure that your sales cycle is, XYZ time frame. But in essence, time does kill deals. And every time I do events and I ask that question in the audience and I say, hey, real estate agents, lenders, what do you think? We've got a scenario. We've been massaging that loan for, let's say, a month. I get things back to me, answers back to me saying, oh, that's great. We're working the deal and it makes sense. And we're making the follow-up calls and all is great. That's not the case, guys. We have come across so many scenarios that the longer the sales cycle, the more stale that lead gets, that prospective buyer gets. They're losing altitude, they're decreasing altitude. Therefore, your credibility now is decreasing. Here's proof of concept and story that we just had. All right, we had actual contract that was supposed to get executed, and it didn't get executed only because the buyer's agent, who's brand new of the industry, God bless him, did not want to send the desktop underwriter. And desktop underwriter, obviously, you guys know, Fannie Mae. It's important to share that knowledge and to have that exposure to the seller's agent. If you don't have good communication through the sales cycle, things are going to get stale. You're going to lose the altitude. You're going to drop significantly, and you're going to lose that deal. So time kills deals only because you as real estate professionals need to understand that you want to get that person who's warm and fuzzy and hot and ready to go and get them into a home. You don't want to show them 10 houses, 15 houses. Limit it to 5 houses. That's it. Okay. Do a Ben Franklin approach and say, here's your pros, your cons. This is what we're going to do. This is where we're going to be. Here's your location. But in essence, if you string along that sales cycle and you extend it, you're going to lose that client. If you do not speak to your influencers, your loved ones during that sales cycle process, you're going to lose the client because we have so many scenarios. Another one that actually one of your best agents, Melinda, She actually has her father, and her father is the decision maker, and it should be. She loves her father to death. She wants that father to have that golden stamp of approval. And I said to her, I said, let's get him on the phone. Let's communicate, let's collaborate together so we can answer those questions. And that's controlling the lead. And therefore, you're going to control your paycheck, right? Control lead, control your paycheck. But if you shorten the cycle, you're subject to close faster. If you continuously elongate that sales cycle and just keep going and going for months, and at the end you're going to lose that client. So very
and it's not
important
just that, Anthony. Tell them the story of what happened, how the sales cycle was long in one of your deals, and then they ended up going to buy a car.
Just had that this morning.
Right. That's another example. It's not just the sales part of it, right? It's actually the situations that can come up that can cause us problems in the sales cycle.
So here's another true story that we just addressed. And the debt to income ratio works right now. But one of the agents that I do a lot of business with, we were obviously working with a client, and this was, I'd say, a month ago. I just circled back to the agent. I said, look, we've got to get on this client because client's warm and fuzzy. They obviously want to purchase, but we're basically taking our sweet time here, and we really need to execute faster and move faster. Well, long story short, we just got a text message, and she purchased a car, and she knows the do's and the don'ts. The real estate agent obviously went over, do not buy a car, plane, train, automobile. We know that, and we're educated on that. But sometimes the buyer just does an impulsive buy, and sometimes life smacks them in the face, and maybe this person really needed a car. Okay, she's not going to get to work. She doesn't have a job. She's not going to buy a house anyway. But it's the communication. Okay, this is why 90% of the business is follow up. And if you're not following up, you don't know if that person's going to buy that car. You can't guide that person in that direction. That's the case. We address the situation, but that's a damage control. That's controlling the damage that could have potentially made her not get that $250,000 home. So now they're back on the railroad track going straight. But that's a scenario that we come across all the time. And this is the stuff that we want to share. But it's honestly breaking things down easier for the actual buyer. Okay, if that makes any sense whatsoever. It's making their job, which is buying a house, that much easier. How do you do that? You need to have systems in play. Melinda and I believe in systems. This right here is all embedded into our system. Okay, this Zoom meeting, this Facebook Live, all of the data that is coming into the system. This is how we communicate with you guys as real estate agents, right? But how do you take that, retract it, and then push it back to the actual buyer with content, educational pieces of content, emails, text messages, videos, personalized videos. The queen over here, Melinda, sending out Wednesday updates on all of her files until midnight. She's updating it constantly. That's control in scenarios that could actually be something that's going to be detrimental to your actual business, your closing. So awesome. Time kills deals. What else do we got?
So I'll jump into something that I dealt with a couple times in the last 10 days. It was where we are like very far along in the process. We've done inspections and appraisals and different things are happening, and we get to the end and something is requiring generally the seller to put more money in the deal, whether it's reducing costs or giving a credit. And that can, of course, put strain on a transaction because not all sellers are open-minded about it. And even when they are, they might be thinking about it in very black and white terms. I'll give you the two scenarios that we dealt with and how we solved that problem. So the first one was a scenario where there were HOA violations. The estoppel didn't come in to the last few days of the deal coming through, and the violation showed up that the property needed to be painted. Mind you, this house was already painted. And even though it was already painted, they pressure washed it and a little bit of the paint chipped off, and the HOA required a full repainting done. And everyone knows that you have to get colors approved and all that stuff. So it wasn't going to happen before closing. And technically, and we'll talk more about this later on my next point, there was no contractual obligation for the seller to fix this. So we were at a standstill, a $300 or so paint job that the buyer did not want to pay for, that the seller did not want to pay for. And we are literally the day before closing. So no one wanted to budge. And so I picked up the phone, because when there's problems, you just need to pick up the phone. I picked up the phone, called the seller's attorney and said, listen, there's a mortgage, there's the HOA dues. Give me something. Let's meet halfway and let's get this deal closed. Like, honestly, it's $1,500 and it's going to be more to pay another mortgage payment, more to pay another HOA fee, more to pay whatever interest and tax per diems that are going to be coming through. So he says, I don't know. Let me find out. I said, listen, it's dollars and cents. And that's my line, dollars and cents, mathematical equation. It's cheaper to close tomorrow with the credit than to wait and find another buyer and either fix the problem or not, but like make sure it's not included. And then you're going to have to at least have another month, because closings don't happen overnight. So you're going to have at least one more mortgage payment, maybe two, depending on how quickly you find that replacement buyer. So when I talk to people, they're like, what would you do? That's what I say. I said, well, let's do the math. Let's see where we fall when we actually do these things versus not doing it and canceling the contract. So that deal, we ended up getting the credit and we ended up closing the next day. So that was great. And then just recently, a couple of days ago, another deal came through where the seller was actually the mother of the agent, and he called. He's like, what would you do? The appraisal came out low. They were gonna offer 6% but now with the reduction in price, they were trying to adjust commissions, they were trying to adjust credits, they were trying to adjust sale price, and the seller was getting very standoffish because it's like always cutting out of her bottom line. But at the end of the day, it's dollars and cents, right? So what do we do? That's what I said, dollars and cents. Listen, how long is it going to take? You're going to have taxes, HOA, insurance, and all that adds up very fast. And so what's the difference? So what I did was I took the new scenario that was being proposed, I put it into the closing software, I showed them how it changed their bottom line and to see how the different scenario was really going to affect their pocket versus putting it back on the market. And in the end, they agreed. We have an addendum and we're moving forward to closing. So it's about being able to have those frank conversations sometimes and telling people like the reality of what that decision is going to be versus not doing it.
So they got cold feet in essence, basically, and you used basic math, fourth grade math right now to close the deal.
Yeah, and by picking up the phone, because this is not something that you could say by an email. So picking up the phone is a super important thing when things are getting dicey. It's not about text messages or emails. It's about picking up the phone.
That's so great. That's so great you said that. We just had one of our guys in here text message in the consumer. And I said, all right, you engaged with that person enough with the text messages. Now get on the phone and close the deal. It's all about engagement, folks. Okay. I always talk about ETC, email, text, call, and then video obviously is the V. But it's not in that sequence, and it doesn't have to be in that sequence. You guys got to feel for it. You got to look at your iPhone and say, all right, I just sent that piece of content. Melinda's, right on that. We just this morning gave 3 options. When I used to work at Countrywide, they said always give 3 options. We broke it down. 4th grade math. Option 1, 2, and 3. They're going to choose every single time, but give them those options. If you don't have those options, you're not going to close that deal, and therefore, it's going to become stale.
Awesome. So the next thing, I asked Anthony to talk about this today because I always have questions about it and I always forget. And I asked him to make me a nice chart with all the seller concession requirements and possibilities for the different loans, and et cetera. So Anthony, why don't you share your screen, show this chart and explain to everybody that's watching and that will be watching later, what is cooking with seller concessions? Let me see.
So a lot of people, I should say in general, real estate agents and consumers, we just had this happen yesterday. Daniel, nice gentleman, got freaked out by his closing cost. And when I say closing costs, we had 3.5% FHA down payment, taxes and insurance, title, government. Obviously that adds up. But we were in the 15, 16,000 range, and they only had $9,000 towards a concession. Now, they wanted to get off the phone. as soon as I gave them that number, okay, thank you so much. That was it. I would have lost the opportunity because I heard Mr. Daniel, and I don't want to give his last name, in the background. I said, that's your husband, right? Get him on the phone. Get him on the phone. Oh, I don't know. Get your husband on the phone. We need to, this is a community here. We're going to collaborate as a team. He then says, yeah, I know the actual seller. That's perfect. Okay, we're doing an FHA loan. We can go up to 6%. And lo and behold, now we're going to get 6%. All right. So the deal now is that everyone always tells me, real estate agents, it's impossible to get sellers concessions. No, it's not. I don't care where you are. Okay. You can be in the most nicest neighborhood. You can always get a seller's concession. It's at what you say. It's how you say it. It's your delivery. This chart that you guys are viewing right now, simple cheat chart, PRMG has it. I could send it after this video and this live stream, but this helps us out. We have this right over here pasted on our freaking wall right here. All right. And every single day we're looking at it and we're utilizing this chart, but this helps agents out absorb what they can ask for. Now, obviously, we're not going to ask for 6% every single time. To each their own. Every deal is a different deal, but this helps individuals out. How do I leverage myself to get what I need? I underwrite everything up front. Okay. Every single file that we touch that is a viable deal gets underwritten. It's to be determined. TBD is our acronym. All right. So whatever you guys want to mark it and call it, it is an underwritten loan. That's leverage. That's a negotiation now if I'm a buyer's agent. That's my ammunition that I'm going to go in guns blazing and saying, hey, listen, this is what we're going to do. By the way, I just want you to know that this is actually approved. It's the 21st. We can close in 2 weeks. Okay. If it's approved, your conditions should be met. Don't just slap it against the wall and say, here's your commitment letter. Meet the conditions. If the buyer's vested, they're going to give you those conditions. But then now you're going to have ammunition. Now you're going to say, okay, FHA, maybe I can get 3%. Maybe I can get 4% of whatever the case is. So this chart is something that I would really study and analyze. And it's case by case. You can't go in guns blazing and demanding 6% on every deal. You're lucky to possibly get 3%. But I would say within 70, 76, 80% of our deals, because I have a chart up on my other screen, they all have seller's concessions involved in it. Some way, shape, or form, down payment assistance. These are tools that we need to educate our clients on. Not only that, our real estate agents. And I feel like, Melinda, a lot of agents, they become defensive, but they also become that they don't want to compromise their commission. I get that. Okay. Especially a new agent. A new agent does not want to compromise that one closing that they're going to do. Because when you enter this sector, it's hard. You're grinding. And when you get that one glass of water, man, that bottle of water, you're cherishing it. You don't want to screw it up. Now, what you say, it's how you say it. It's your delivery approach. You're not going to call the agent and say, hey, we need 6%. Does this person have money? You need to deliver that with a finesse. Okay. And our delivery is like no other because it's automated. And the seller gets educated. The actual physical seller gets educated. We all communicate. We pick up the phone. We call the seller. And then we ask for concessions. I'll leave it at this. We just had a scenario, and it was with a client right now. And I expressed to all parties that, listen, agent said the AC unit's probably going to need to be repaired. I said, okay, that's cool. Tiles missing. All right, that's cool as well. We obviously going to need all this repaired. What else? Electrical panels not up to code. That's a problem. Insurance is going to be through the roof. What else? I ask these questions. Buyer's agents should be asking these questions. I ask them. I want to know. Right. So we had the appraiser go out there. I'll pay for the $150 in final inspection if I need it. But we have the appraiser go out there because I want to know if they're going to comment on any of this stuff. The inspection didn't say it wasn't functional. It was in working order. The AC unit is in working order. It might need a warranty of a year or so, but it's in working order. The title is going to obviously need to be, replaced. So seller's going to do that. And the last thing is the electrical panel's not up to code. Now, any insurance, agent's going to say a premium is going to be higher, but the appraisal came back. Everything was fine as is. Okay. And so there's nothing wrong with the home. Every single time you're going to get some sort of inspection company or buyer that's hesitant because they're getting cold feet. But now, all right, we understand that the seller gave us a call and said, listen, single mom of 4 kids. I respect the fact that she wants to have peace of mind at night. I love the fact, Anthony, that you communicated all of this prior to actually having this appraiser go out there. Here, for the record, we're going to give them $8,500 towards closing costs. $8,500. Okay, so now we have a seller's concession of $8,500. So now she, the buyer, has peace of mind to close. And afterwards, if she wants to change the AC unit out, she can do it. All right, if she wants to, obviously buy all the stuff to upgrade the kitchen, she can do that. The electrical panel is being replaced prior. On top of that, she's getting $8,500. So guys, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's your delivery. And this concession worksheet is going to help out a lot of agents, but don't be concerned about what you're asking. You got to understand 78% of the nation's living paycheck to paycheck. Most of these buyers, they need some sort of assistance. So let's give them something. So I hope this helps. Melinda loves it, right?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I have it saved in our reference manual now. All right, so I'm going to share my screen next because the next topic that I'm going to talk about are some additional clauses in the contract that can really make or break a scenario. So let's see.
Let me get off this.
Stop sharing your screen, Anthony. There we go.
All right.
Awesome. All right, so there's 2. I'm sure people are more and more familiar with hearing about the permit clause, additional requirement in the contract. And let me give you guys a brief breakdown of where the status of that clause in the contract right now. So the permit clause, a paragraph in the contract, basically tells us that the seller just needs to cooperate with the permits, that there's nothing known that's a problem right now, and that they'll disclose what they have and share their information and cooperate. But there's nothing that requires expired or open permits to be closed out prior to closing. And there's nothing that requires the work to be permitted. So what does that mean? That means that without further protections, your buyers can be inheriting a problem, right? That can cost money to fix. It's actually super common because the down South Florida, with the contractors we have, that they don't finish and do their final inspection to close out the permit is what we see most often. And that means that all the work was done, all the steps were taken care of, but they never did that last step. So the agents I work with, the buyers I work with, we always make sure that we had that extra clause, seller shall close out any open or active, abandoned, and or non-finalized expired permits. That's the line. I'll text it to you guys. I'll share it with you, but just hit me up, or we'll send it afterwards with a chart perhaps to everyone who came and registered. And if you didn't register formally and are just following, let us know and we'll get that out to you anyway. So this extra clause is super important because it allows for the buyer to force it to happen. Now, if I'm on the seller side, I use it to my advantage in one way. If I'm on the buyer side, I use it to my, right? So depending on what side of the deal you're on, if you have the buyer, you want that in. What happens if you get pushback? Why would there be pushback? So the pushback comes from a seller either A, knowing there's problems and doesn't want to deal with them, or doesn't want to agree to something that they don't know what there is out there, right? So then you pull your search, and then you see, oh, there actually is problems, but I'm short cash to close now. As a seller, I can't afford to pay someone to fix these things. So now they're stuck at it. So the issue then, that's where the issue becomes. So how do you resolve that? Or ordering a tax and lien report early is the best way to deal with a lot of these objections, because generally speaking, before your inspection period runs, you know if there's open or expired permits, and you could handle that issue during the inspection period. But depending on your team, you might not have that flexibility, or if you have a short close, you want to at least give your buyer an out if the inspection, the tax and lien report does not come back before the inspection period expires, to back out if the seller does not agree to close them out. So that's one way to handle the objection on that end and still keep your buyer protected. At the end of the day, it's all a negotiation. It's all a mathematical equation, right? So we're able to usually resolve it in that way. for that. Now, if I'm on the listing side, it's very easy to tell if there's open or expired permits. You can pull it up. So as a listing agent and as a seller's attorney, I'm able to see if it's really an issue or not. And then if it's not, people sometimes are fighting over clauses that don't even matter because it's not applicable. So we can look it up really fast to see if it's applicable, and let's not fight and wait and kill the deal and take time for that extra initial that they decide they keep shopping around after it's taking too long and they find another house. So we look it up real quick and we're able to see if there's actually any permits that show up, and if it's a non-issue, it's a non-issue. Right now I'm dealing with a listing, a seller that we're under contract, and they're insisting that it be closed, and it doesn't need to be closed. And I plop there in the email a screen clip of that clause, and eventually this will move on to the next stage, right? Next stage, and it is. So that's that clause. Now, one other clause that we don't see as often that's super, super important if you're a buyer is for the seller shall cure all association violations relative to the property before closing. That paint issue we talked about in the other example about the dollars and cents discussions that we need to be having, that would not have happened at all, and it would have been required to be painted if that clause is in there. If it's an agent I work with often, or if it's a contract that I'm able to review before it gets signed, I make sure it's in there. But sometimes I get stuck with that situation and the contract that we're dealt with, right? So that was that scenario. But by including that the seller shall cure out condo association violations or homeowners association violations prior to closing, you will not have this problem, because those things don't always come up as part of your inspection report. So you don't know that there is a violation. And estoppels are one thing that we don't order early. And we don't order them early because if there's a delay, we need to get it updated. Okay. And that's another thing. Like if we're in a new month, if we're closing in the following month, we need to get the new month's numbers to see if that next month is paid. And then we'll require an update. So it's just creating more closing costs for everyone. So we wait for that. So sometimes it comes in towards the end. Conclusion of the story is you want to have those extra clauses in there to protect your buyers specifically, and then explaining to your sellers if they are in there what they mean. And doesn't mean you can't cross it out as a listing agent. And we had the discussion, is it worth it, is it not? And how do we minimize exposure for the buyer?
If your buyer's agent, do they contact you and they obviously walk them through that? You're an attorney.
Yeah, right. So it depends on the scenario. So the newer agents are good at sending me the offers before they send them to their clients, and I give them their feedback. The more seasoned agents already have it. The ones that have been in the middle, depending on like how long we've been working together. Usually someone that I've been working together like for a while, we have these discussions like, listen, you need to have this clause in your contract. A couple of weeks ago, I was training a team on their default contracts. And so basically we were in, I don't know if it was Simplicity or whatever system they were using, and we went in and put their default clauses in their templates so that they never forget. And I think it's a great idea for everybody to do.
Nice.
So that is the big permit and code violation, and that takes us to exactly 11:30. 4 topics, no questions. I don't see any questions that anyone chatted in. But if you guys have any feedback, any questions, let us know. We're happy to include them in our next one. We're going to probably be doing this monthly, maybe bi-weekly. We're going to see. But stay tuned. We'll be promoting the next date and time. You could add it to your calendar. I hope you guys found it useful and beneficial, and you learned some tips and tricks. But I want to remind you, we're doing this because we help agents all the time troubleshoot deals, whether it's our own deals or others. But if we could prevent these problems from starting, that's the goal of today, and the goal of all the future classes or video chats, live streamings to come. So
guys, you have the option to unmute on Zoom. Those of you that are on Facebook right now,
you could comment in the chat.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you, I don't know, a minute, because I'm getting blown up over here. That's why this is only 30 minutes. Now, honest to God, Melinda's right. We come across scenarios every day. No one talks about these scenarios. Everyone's talking about success stories, clear to closes, approvals, yay, rainbows and unicorns, but they don't talk about the crap that goes on. And that's what we're going to expose. But there's always a way to do a loan. There's always a way to close a loan. There's
creativity, right?
That's it. It's collaboration. It's communication, man. You are talking through things. You are a psychiatrist. In fact, it's probably who we want on this.
Yes.
Special
So
guest.
as we get a little bit more streamlined, we're going to have some guest speakers. As we were talking, I had got 3 ideas that I wrote down for future questions and topics, and also some speakers to bring on some of our other boss key players in the industry here in South Florida. So stay tuned. We're probably going to elaborate on this damage control a little further. So listen out for that soon too.
Awesome. Thank you, Melinda. I will see you,
Thank you guys.
next month. And guys, you'll have all of this video will be recorded. Obviously, it's going to your email, those of you that are registered, and our agenda will also go to you. And there's also a Slack invitation that is Tag Team Nations community. So you'll be able to opt in. That is amazing. Melinda and I solidified a Slack account together as a team, but not only that, the concept there is when you have scenarios on a daily basis, you can Slack us. All of Tag Team Nation operations and sales, they're on that. Her team as well, Melinda's. So we're here to help. We're here to answer scenarios. And thank you for taking the time out of your day.